Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by for China Online Education Group's second quarter 2021 earnings conference call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's conference call is being recorded. I will now turn the call over to your host, Ms. Ni Yan, Investor Relations for the company. Please go ahead, Ni.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second quarter 2021 earnings conference call of China Online Education Group, also known as 51 Talk. The company's results were issued via Newswire services earlier today and are posted online. You can download the earnings press release and sign up for the company's distribution list by visiting the IR section of our website at ir.51talk.com. Mr. Jack Huang, our Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Min Xu, our Chief Financial Officer, will begin with some prepared remarks. Following the prepared remarks, Mr. Li Minzhang, our Chief Operating Officer, will also join the call for our Q&A session. Before we continue, please note that today's discussions will contain forward-looking statements made under the Safe Harbor provisions of the U.S. Private Securities Limitation Reform Act of 1995. Forward-looking statements involve inherent risks and uncertainties. As such, the company's results may be materially different from the views expressed today. Further information regarding this and other risks and uncertainties is included in the company's Form 20-F and other public filings as filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The company does not assume any obligation to update any forward-looking statements, except as required under the applicable law. Please also note that 51 Talk's earnings press release and its conference call include discussion of unaudited GAAP financial information, as well as unaudited non-GAAP financial measures. 51 Talk's press release contains a reconciliation of the unaudited non-GAAP measures to the unaudited most directly comparable GAAP measures. I will now turn the call over to our CEO, Jack Huang. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our conference call. We achieved another strong quarter as second quarter net revenue reached RMB 579.8 million, primarily driven by a 35.7% year-over-year increase in the number of active students. On July 24, 2021, relevant Chinese authorities issued the opinions on further alleviating the burden of homework and after-school tutoring for students in compulsory education, which contains high-level policy directives about requirements and restrictions related to online and offline after-school tutoring services. Aligned with the opinion directives and requirements, 51 Talk launched brand new all-round proficiency courses in small class format for children and teenagers led by Chinese teachers. Meanwhile, we plan to grow our overseas business by offering one-on-one classes for international K-12 and adult student users taught by foreign teachers. Where there are new challenges, there will always be new opportunities. In keeping with the revised framework and regulations for our industry, we will continue to innovate our course offerings and explore the growth opportunities. With that, I will now turn the call to our CFO, Xu Ming.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everyone.
We recorded a 17.5% year-over-year increase of net revenue and a 27 million RMB net loss in the second quarter. Under the new regulations, the company has taken actions to adapt to the latest operating environment and will take measures to improve operating efficiencies. Looking ahead, we have confidence in continue to create value for our students and teachers while conforming to the applicable laws and the regulations. So net revenues for the second quarter was 580 million RMB, a 17.5% increase from 494 million RMB for the same quarter last year. The number of active students in the second quarter was 404,000, a 35.7% increase from 298,000 for the same quarter last year. Gross margin for the second quarter was 72.7% compared with 70.9% for the second quarter last year. The increase was mainly attributable to the decrease of cost per lesson, partially offset by decrease of the revenue per lesson. One-on-one gross margin for the second quarter was 73%, and the small class gross margin was 64.2%. Total operating expenses for the second quarter were 461 million RMB, up 38.7% year-over-year. Sales and marketing expenses for the second quarter were 316 million RMB, 57.4% of gross billings for the second quarter. Excluding SBC, non-GAAP sales and marketing expenses for the second quarter were 313 million RMB, representing 57% of gross billings for the second quarter. Product development expenses for the second quarter were 65 million RMB, a 68.4% increase year-over-year. Excluding SBC, non-GAAP product development expenses for the second quarter were 63.4 million RMB, a 71.5% increase for the same period last year. G&A expenses for the second quarter were 80 million RMB, a 48.7% increase from the same quarter last year. Excluding SBC, non-GAAP G&A expenses for the second quarter were 75 million RMB, a 46.6% increase from the same period last year. Other income for the second quarter was 5.6 million RMB of super deduction credit. Operating loss for the second quarter was 34 million RMB compared with operating income of 27 million RMB for the same quarter last year. Non-GAAP operating loss for the second quarter was 25 million RMB compared with non-GAAP operating income of 34 million RMB a year ago. Net loss for the second quarter was 27 million RMB compared with net income of 33 million RMB last year. Non-GAAP net loss for the second quarter was 18 million RMB compared with non-GAAP net income of 40 million RMB for the same quarter last year. Income tax expense for the second quarter was 2.9 million RMB. Basic and diluted EPS for the second quarter was negative 1.24 RMB compared with basic EPS of 1.55 RMB and a diluted EPS of 1.44 RMB for the same quarter last year. Each ADS represents 15 Class A ordinary shares. Non-GAAP basic and diluted EPS for the second quarter was negative 82 cents compared with non-GAAP EPS of 1.87 RMB and diluted EPS of 1.75 RMB for the same quarter last year. Gross billings for the second quarter were 550 million RMB, an 18.7% year-over-year decrease. This is mainly driven by the decrease of our package price, partially offset by the increase in paying students. As of June 30, 2021, the company has total cash equivalent, time deposits, and short-term investments of 1.64 billion RMB, compared with 1.73 billion RMB as of December 31, 2020. Advances from students were 2.7 billion RMB as of June 30, 2021, compared with 2.72 billion RMB as of December 31, 2020. So for our outlook, for the third quarter of 2021, the company currently expects net revenues to be between 550 million RMB and 155 million RMB, which would represent an increase of approximately 2.1% to 3.1% from 539 million RMB for the same quarter last year. The above outlook is based on current market conditions and reflects the company's current and preliminary estimates of market and operating conditions and customer demand, which are all subject to change. This concludes our prepared remarks. We will now open the call to questions. Operator, please go ahead.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to ask a question, please signal by pressing star 1 on your telephone keypad, and please ensure the mute function on your telephone is switched off to allow your signals to reach our equipment. For the benefit of all participants on today's call, please limit yourself to 2 questions. If you have any additional questions, you may re-enter the queue. Please ask your question in Chinese first, then follow up with an English translation. And once again, that is star 1 if you do wish to ask a question. We seem to have no questions over the phones at this time. Again, it is star 1 on your telephone keypad. And please ensure the mute function is turned off so your signal may reach our equipment. As we seem to have no questions over the phones, I'd like to turn the call back over to the company for any additional or closing remarks.
Thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you once again for joining us today. If you have further questions, please feel free to contact 51Talk's Investor Relations through the contact information provided on our website or the Sense Group Investor Relations. Thank you.
Apologies for the interruption. We do now actually have a question over the phone from Vincent Yu of Needham & Company. Please go ahead.
Hi, management. 谢谢刚才关一层接受我的提问不好意思，这个刚才好像有点问题，没有排上队。我这个问题是关于我觉得就是还是问一个这个总体的问题就是我这个就是也想问一下，这公司的这个经营对策看起来这个 outlook 其实没有发生这个，虽然有一些下降，但是没有意想的就是这么大的这个一个影响，就想问问公司这个我们未来经营政策比如说外教这方面是如何调整，以及就是说如何去因应这个国家这方面的监管Thanks management for taking my question. Sorry and apologize for some connection issue earlier. So the question is about our the operation strategy facing the regulation in terms of the foreign teachers and the other regulations in terms of academic training the training so for and thank you very much.
OK， 那我先来回答一下您的问题。我们从8月份开始，那么从这个双减政策颁布开始，8月份开始呢，我们就已经开始停止了针对国内的K12用户的这个外教在境外的外教的这个课程。那么现在呢，我们从这个9月份开始，我们已经我们事实上从8月中旬开始，我们就推出了我们的这个新的课程我们叫51素养的这样的一个全素质教育的课程。那么那在这样的一个课程体系当中呢，我们呢是用双语的形式它是用这个中国老师在境内的中国老师，那么用双语的形式，当然更主要是用英文，那么去不仅仅是教孩子英文，同时呢还可以去培养孩子的这个创造力、表现力表达力、社交力、思考力同理心等等。那么这是一个纯素质类的课程。那么我们现在呢会把这个课程呢作为我们新的这个主打的课程 同时呢，我们针对这个在境外就我们针对境外因为我们本来也有一小部分的这个境外的用户，那么我们现在也开始在针对一些这个境外的市场去这个加快这个开发的速度同时呢，因为我们本身也是从这个成人用户开始的，那么因为成人用户呢并不受到这一次的国家监管的影响，那么我们也是在开始呢去恢复我们在成人市场的一些这个投放，包括在成人市场的这个成长，去寻找在成人市场这个成长的机会
Okay. So first of all, thank you for the question. So ever since the new regulation is out in July, we quickly took a lot of actions to number one, to be compliant to the regulation. We stopped selling the one-on-one lesson taught by Filipino teachers to our Chinese students, and so instead we launched a new course we call the 5-1 Suyang. It's actually a all-round proficiency course, which is kind of not only so first of all, it's taught by Chinese teachers. Second is it uses taught both English language and Chinese language, and so not only we taught we teach the language, we also teach a lot of other capabilities, including the creativities, public performance, public speaking, social capability, critical thinking, and empathy. So this is a non-academic course that really can provide a lot of value to our existing students and new students. So it is so our new 5-1 Suyang, all-round proficiency course will be our flagship product for our Chinese students. So in addition, we also we already have a quite a number of overseas students, and so we will continue to offer our existing one-on-one mass market product taught by our great Filipino teacher to our overseas students, and we believe there's a great potential for that market. And also we were we were quite strong in adult learning market, and we will continue to invest in this market, and we will try to grow in this sector too. So these are kind of our strategy, after the new regulations is out. Hope this answers your question, Vince.
Yeah, very clear. And just follow up in terms of the teachers base. 我中文问一下，就是我们这个就是现在外教就是课已经没办法销售了，那就是未来就是比如说在于这个英语口才或者说这个综合素养这一方面是永远都是用我们这个中文的老师了嘛？So this for all the future classes, they are all will be taught by the Chinese domestic teachers, right? Just not temporary phase, but for like forever, like all to be transiting to domestic teacher group.
Correct. For the foreseeable future in China, we will only use Chinese teacher to teach our our new 5 Suyang course. Yes, that's correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
We have no further questions. I'd like to turn the call back to the company for closing remarks. Ms. Nian, please go ahead.
Thank you once again for joining us today. If you have further questions, please feel free to contact 5-1 Investor Relations through the contact information provided on our website or Sand Group Investor Relations.
This concludes this conference call. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you for joining.